Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the actual fuck? The Sonder of life. Feeling like Marvin Gaye. What in the hell is going on in the world as a whole? In your own personal life. Am I crazy for looking at the world different? Are these motherfuckers crazy for looking at the world the same? Welcome, motherfuckers, to a new podcast experience. How about a safe space for free thinkers? Pro-black, pro-humanity, and profanity. Say melanated, medicated, and meditated. Be into fucking tame. The Ratchet Buddhas, Stay Solid Podcast. Tune in. Perfect. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Ratchet Buddha, with my homie, the most interesting man in the Playa del Carmen, my guy Mike. So Mike took time out of his day to come out and chat with me about expat life. You know, a lot of the goods, the bads, the uglies, but more so the good. All the goodness of getting the hell out of America and trying something different, and building community and things like that. So, how I met Mike. Mike probably don't even remember this story because we was all faded at the beach called Fusion, and we're just kicking it, me, my wife, and some friends, and here comes Mike walking over with a joint, talking about, you guys want to smoke? We were like, shit, why not? Do you remember this? He don't remember. I knew he wouldn't remember. And so we're like, shit, why not, right? So we all close our tab, we walk back, and I'm like, that's a cool motherfucker right there, you know what I mean? And turns out he throws events out here. He'll talk more about that hopefully here soon. Those events, all kind of with the overtone of being cannabis friendly, which is something that I'm definitely a proponent of, and I think that as two veterans, cannabis is a great tool for all of the traumas and dealing with all the traumas and the PTSD that comes along with military service. So I thank you for that, Mike. That's big, and keep doing that, because I think that many of us who are starting to travel have had military service and probably dealing with a lot of shit from it. So being an advocate is something that we all need. So that's
I appreciate it, man.
Yes.
Thank you.
Real shit. I appreciate you. Yeah. So we'll get to it and start kind of discussing really like why we're here. We're in a beautiful city in a beautiful country with beautiful people called Playa del Carmen, Mexico. It's in the Yucatan Peninsula, the Riviera Maya area, which is rich with natural healing, a lot of culture, a lot of history when it comes to the Mayan, the Aztec community. I'm sure you heard about, the ruins. I'm sure you heard Tulum, of course, and we're located right in between Tulum and Cancun, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with. But Playa del Carmen is like the sweet spot between both those two cities. So we made it home here. So is Mike, and we found a way to find community to help the African diaspora prosper out here, and kind of work our way to a safe space that we can all exist in and have a good time. But we're inclusive. You're inclusive. Your parties are super dope, and it's not just black people there. So it's all about building outward and hopefully start bringing more people into our life, and they can understand that the stereotypes don't mean shit, the assumptions don't mean shit, and actually get in there with us and see how we get down as a black community and how we can show love to everyone else, despite of what we've been told of how to be in this world. So I think we're on the right path, brother.
I appreciate it.
Definitely on the right path. So again, tell the folks where you come from, how'd you end up here, and
I guess Playa, in a sense, chose me. My journey is a little different than most, I was prior service, spent some time in Iraq, So I'm a little bit seasoned in the actual traveling experience, you know. So I was in the military for back in like 2001 time frame, and shortly after I got out of Iraq for my first tour, which was like 18 months straight.
What about in Iraq?
Baghdad.
Baghdad.
Yeah, we did Baghdad, Karbala, a few other places.
Army?
Yeah.
Army. It's pretty nasty.
I was a tanker.
Oh, really? You were in tanks?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
How was that, bro?
Man, you know, like it was. I was young, so you know, you're taking it all in stride. You know, so you're not really being so dramatic about what you're actually doing. But I guess when you look back, and it's like, how many people have actually like been even in a tank, seen a tank, or in a sense even operated a tank at the highest level.
And know someone, and actually know someone who did it.
Yeah,
It's rare. It's rare. I haven't, and I've been in the military as well, and I never met somebody who was like, I was in tanks.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to be in the Air Force. You know, my dad was in the Air Force, so when I actually decided that I'm going to use the military to get me out the States, I was trying to use the Air Force, but all of those small infractions I had as growing up kind of didn't allow me to get into the Air Force. So I chose the lesser of all the rest of the evils and chose the Air Force. I mean the Army, sorry. But upon the choices that they were giving me, they weren't really the type of jobs that because I remember what my dad was doing, you know, he was in the military, but he had a regular job, you know, where he came home all the time, he was still in the military, you know, so I was expecting that type of flow.
Yeah.
You know, but the Army is a little bit different, you know, so for me, the choices that were offered, the only thing that really seemed safe was the tank. You know, like, hey, I can.
So they put you straight like in infantry, I guess. Not infantry, or was that something else?
Well, infantry is something else. We have armor, and then you have infantry.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was in armor. Yeah. Armor is like the tanks, you know, things that have armor, and then infantry are boot soldiers, which is a funny story, anyways. Later on, when we get to Iraq. So yeah, I chose the tank and ended up going to basic training for that, you know, learning how to shoot, move, communicate a tank. And then I was able to finesse my way into getting choice of duty station, and I wanted to leave the States. So people were saying that you can go all these places.
Right.
But the options that
they
gave me were only two options. So they gave me Korea and Germany. So at that time, a long time ago, back in the 2000s, you know so much about neither of the two. But I knew more about Germany. You know, my thought process was, you know, I don't know nothing really about North or South Korea.
Right.
But I know about Germany, you know, about Hitler, the things that they tell you, and it was like, oh, well, you know, he's not there no more, blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking Germany is the move. So I end up picking Germany. So I go to Germany, and I'm like in Friedberg, which is maybe 20, 30 minutes from Frankfurt.
I know it, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I partied in Freeburg a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah. You remember the Matrix, the club Matrix?
Yeah, I know the Matrix. What you talking about?
Pop,
the
bro.
Matrix was.
Oh, yes.
The Matrix was in Weinheim or Darmstadt area.
Somewhere there, yeah.
Boy, they also had the Thursday night clubs that was in Hanau. Can't remember the name right now. They had one in Hanau and they had one in Weinheim. That was not the downtown. But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, I got a station in Freiburg and I went there, and it was just a whole nother vibe being outside the States.
Oh, yeah, culture shock too, I'm sure.
You know, in the sense I grew up moving around, my dad was Air Force.
That's right, so you got to see a couple spaces.
Yeah, you know how, you know, there's people that are different, so you don't really look at it like a culture shock, you know. But even, the first night I was there, you know, it was like an easy score, you know. So even then it was like, damn, you know, this shit's going to be...
It's going to be lit.
It's going to be lit, you know. But it was short-lived because we ended up going to Iraq.
Quick. It was 2001, right?
Yeah, a few months later.
Was it before or after 9/11?
After.
You got that after 9/11?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, shortly after. It was like... But I was already in basic training, so I didn't get to Germany until after. Gotcha. So we were shortly going to Iraq. Ended up going to Iraq in April 2003. So it was about a year or so that I was there because it was short-lived. What I mean by that is that you have to start doing all these training exercises, would take you away from everything for months. So you're not really enjoying yourself. Yeah. So that started, and things slowly started getting serious to going to Iraq. You know, and then for people to really put in this perspective, when we landed in Iraq, on television, they were pulling down the Saddam statue.
Gotcha.
That's when we moved in. We were first went to Kuwait. Then after Kuwait for a few weeks, we did a road march all the way from Kuwait to Baghdad. So being there, you know, we had a few missions that were going on, but for us, as tankers, we didn't have our tanks. Our tanks didn't arrive until like 6 months after we made it.
So what y'all do in the meantime?
So that's why I said it was a funny story from the infantry, because how they do war is they take infantry and armor and they mix them into an actual one brigade. So they'll take the top tank company from that armor unit and put it with the infantry brigade or battalion, you know.
Makes
and
sense.
Then they'll take their top infantry company and put it with the armor brigade, you know, battalion. So then they both have
self-sustaining.
Yeah, exactly. So we were assigned to, because I was Bravo Company 137, if there's anybody out there, you know.
Shout out to Bravo Company 137.
Yeah, you know.
Where they out of? They was out
Bandits. We was out of Freeburg.
Freeburg, that's right.
You know, they deactivated and ended up reactivating in Fort Bliss right now. So they're actually having a reunion coming up, I think this weekend in Vegas. So
really?
Shout out to all those brothers. So since
y'all tanks weren't there.
Yeah, since our tanks weren't there, we ended up doing on-the-job training with what the infantry does. So their missions, and this, you got to remind you, this is the beginning of the Iraq War, before they had anything really going
March
on.
of 03, yeah.
You know, so we're riding around flatbed Humvees with no doors, you know, like,
butt naked.
yeah, you know, we're doing cordon searches. We're searching houses for weapons. You know, we're confiscating weapons from the locals. We're doing scenic sites where sites of interest that we would literally be rotating shifts of people there for months. You'll be there for like a month, and all you do is guard duty. That's it. You know, guard duty and sleep, and that'd be for a month. They bring out mail every few days and food one time a day, you know, that type of shit. So, and then we would also do combat missions, you know, also would do cordon searches and checkpoints, you know, some that you see coming up to, some that you don't see, and we pop out on your ass. So, a lot of the stuff that I really seen there was during that time. And then once our tanks arrived, I seen, because I knew what was going on, I seen things as well. And even with my compensation that I had to sit in front of, the shrinks and the psychiatrist and the psychologist, those guys, at the end of the day, it just got to a certain level of being able to even talk about anything, because they have to first build up that trust to try to get you to open up.
Yeah.
But in that, I'm still starting to question exposing the things that I see, because most people go in there and actually talk about the trauma that happened based off of the experience that they were having fighting for other people.
Right.
Mine is based off of all the war crimes that I see us committing.
Pause on that. Yeah. It's I can relate. I can definitely relate. 100%. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. Thank you for sharing that. We'll get more deep into it. However deep you want to go, we can do that for sure. But what you just said just now, that's the catalyst of my PTSD. A lot of my trauma comes from knowing when you step outside of the machine and look at the plunder that we're doing to other people who are just people. It takes a toll on your psyche, no doubt. So I did some time in Balad. I did 5 months in Balad in 2004, September of 04 until January of 05. This is in my previous job. So I was a command post controller, so the people who do the alarms for the base and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so in Balad, there was mortar attacks like daily, multiple times a day. So when I first got there, this is my second deployment. My first one was a cakewalk to a nice chill island. This one was real. First day I get there, right? They're like, hey, you gotta wear your flak vest and you gotta wear your helmet and carry your gun everywhere you go. Right? Now, I ain't used to that shit, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you gotta do all that? But I knew it because I know I'm going to Iraq. Yeah. We've been training a little bit Air Force way for that type of environment. But when you're there, and they're like, as soon as you jump off of the plane, they're like, hey, flak vest, helmet, gun, go right here, this is where your shelters, whatever, right? I'm like, damn, it's like that, right? And so it was a long day of in-processing. And then when we finally get to our tents at this day, back in these days, there were tents. There were some hard billets, but the Army had all the hard billets. And then we had the tents and we had trailers. So anyways, you knew you get the tent until they figure out where you're going to stay after that, right? And so get to the tent, cots, and I'm tired, so I crash out. About 2 in the morning is my time to get in the tent to sleep. About 6:30, 7 in the morning, it's just this whistling sound, and this huge explosion. Like, it was just shook everything. My ears were ringing. I'm on my cot. I kind of roll off my cot. I'm like, where's my shit at? I'm like, where's my helmet with the flak vest at and all that? But I didn't have time really to think. It was dust everywhere, so I just run out of the tent. And when I run out of the tent, I see like an airman, an Air Force person in like the whole PT uniform, and he was laying on the ground. Now I see him, but I can't really like see him. I know it's a person there. The dust kind of clears, and then I see another person and another person, and I'm looking at this guy on the ground. He's kind of laying there, and I'm like, whoa, his arms are like super long, right? And I didn't know at the time, but all of his limbs had become detached. But he had on a long sleeve. It was kind of cold still in January. It was fall, but it was kind of chilly in the mornings. So, like, his limbs were, detached, but they were still inside of his sleeve. So you just saw like an extra long arm. You just knew that they weren't up here no more. and his legs were the same. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like I can get him some water. You know what I mean? They was like, just get back in your fucking tent and get your flag vest on, whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know, that was day one, night fucking one in Iraq, and hindsight is like, you know, what for? Because we know we can talk about American imperialism all day long, but that was night one, and throughout that time frame, 300 plus mortar attacks in a 5-month time frame. That's tough to deal with.
Yeah.
That's tough to deal with. And you got the Army was their base. You know, we were just there to do the aircraft thing and the medevac stuff. But crazy times, bro.
Yeah,
crazy
times were crazy back then. You know, I have stories for days of some crazy stuff. You know. You know, as tankers, you know, we're issued an M4 and a 9mm. So, you know, that 9mm is like your personal weapon, you know, and I would literally have that underneath my pillow with a one in the chamber with the safety off.
One up top,
with the safety
shout out to
off. Like,
yeah.
I'm telling you, because it's like you just in that. I think for me, it took me maybe about 5 months until a calming realization came over me to where I kind of had the feeling like I was here to observe, but I'm not, this is not it for me. Even though, you know, we lost a lot of people there. I carry this around here with all the people that we lost while we were there, and it's just names for days, you know, of all the ones, you know, that were sacrificed to this, you know,
respect for the
war industry.
War industry.
So
it's
it's a reminder to me, you know, especially when I was talking about that calming that came over me. You know, and it was literally during a mortar attack, you know, where, you know, you're getting your gear to go up and start shooting that shit, but you have a calming feeling that came over me, like, man, you know, you're going to experience this, but this is a catalyst to helping you become who you need to be.
Oh, that's solid, yeah.
So, after we left there, after we got stop lost like 2 or 3 times, I can't remember if it was 3 or 2. That's what kept us there for 18 months straight. Yeah. You know, there wasn't really too many people that were there 18 months straight.
Nah, people go home and come back.
Yeah, you know, 18 months, we had stop loss after stop loss after stop loss. Yeah, it was crazy. But once we got back, you know, because that's what I wanted to talk about too, is there's a difference between the soldier that went to war from a military base in the States to wherever the war is, and then goes back to the military base in the States. They have a different viewpoint or problems later on based off of that, because they're used to the United States way of life, all that. Then they leave, go to the war, and then come back, and they can't cope with that whole different structure. The ones that deployed from overseas have a little bit more of an issue, because they then were able to go back to overseas after they left the military, or after they left war. And overseas life gives you a little bit more pleasures, a little bit more sanctuary, a little bit more chill, to be able to be at peace with things that you're going through. But then those people end up then leaving, because that's not where they're from, and they go to the States, which is a whole nother beast to deal with. So a lot of them are the ones that I because I've been traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I go to the States, wherever I go, I try to look up whoever I know that's in the area, and I go and visit them.
Yeah.
You know, and like everybody's suffering. You know,
Everybody's
like
suffering.
we're the ones who took it upon ourselves to leave that toxic environment to be able to heal, be in a little bit more neutral place. And that's why I said Germany kind of saved me, because after I got out the military in 06, I went back to September 05. I ended up back in Germany by 2008. So it was just a few years of me trying to be like, man, I need to leave here again. Like, and then going to Germany, I spent 10 years there. You know, and this was even before my compensation.
Yeah. Before you were just out there.
I was just out there making it happen.
Yeah.
So I built up a whole network out there. You know,
beautiful.
my brother is living out there now, 7 years. My sister, she is living in Russia now because of me living in Germany.
That's right.
I
You set the example. Now people, one thing that I do know is that the American ideal of happiness is not, it ain't it. It's just surviving in a stressful environment that we call normal life, and that's really ain't where we're supposed to be thriving at. So the world is for us. So with that, like what Mike was just saying, like travel, get out there, you see your stress levels go down, you see how other people live, you'll feel a calm come over yourself because you're doing something different that most people are fearful of doing. And when you do it, you're like, holy shit, I can do that. And that's one other barrier that you knock down in life, that now you can go to the next step, stay longer in different places, build community in these places, live life in these places. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Like I commend you on that, you know what I mean? All that solid shit. You know?
Man, if people would realize how much their life can change for the better if they were to take a year to 5 years and just go somewhere by themselves, and not in the same country, like literally move somewhere you have no support system, no umbrella. Because what people don't realize is doors start opening once you put action behind things. You know, so you may not know what's going to come, but something's going to come because you're putting the action towards putting something out there to return.
That's what the laws of attraction are. That's what manifestation is.
Yes.
When I was like in my journey, you go through a dark space because you're trying to figure out who the fuck you are, what's the meaning of all this. Some people call it a midlife crisis, some people call it an existential crisis, but really is your spirit and your soul being sick and tired of being shackled by society and norms and comfort. And you're not growing if you're comfortable. That's one thing I always want to let people know. If you're comfortable, it's time to do something different. And so this whole podcast idea came from being in that dark space and starting my spiritual journey and my awakening journey. And I was like, you know what? I am all things. You know, I have duality. I am God. We are all God. We are all one thing. And I want to be able to express that some way. So I was like, this whole Ratchet Buddha idea came. I was like, that'd be perfect. You know, to get out here and talk to people like yourself, tell my story, talk about how we are healing and being better not in a social construct that is hell-bent on keeping you stressed, sick, poor, and depressed, you know. And so that's kind of the meaning of all this, you know, and understanding that we all should be opening up to each other a lot more than we do. So this is what this space is for. Like, you know, you can ask me questions. You know, you have questions about, you know what I mean? I can ask because that's life. That's connecting with people. You know what I mean? And getting a little deeper than, hey, how you doing? And you know, those platitudinal conversations that don't get you nowhere.
Yeah.
You get to know somebody. You know their story. That makes life more rich, and that's what I want for all of us. You know, and for the folks that are watching that are in the service, like my hat goes off to you. I understand how society conditions us, how it makes us think that it's worth fighting for and your freedom lies within it. And I would just ask you guys to challenge yourself and ask the tough questions of society and of your own self as to, is it in alignment with your spirit? So you found out that it wasn't in alignment with your spirit early on, right? Like,
well, for me, my awakening happened after I got out. I was still, focused on just the worldly, things of being in Europe, which is a great distraction if you don't have any guidance. My awakening came from somebody trying to tell me something that I was like, there's no way that's happening. I'm about the research to show you that. And that was my awakening, because that then got you started down the rabbit hole. And that was in 06. It was like 2000. It was September 05. September 05, as soon as I got out the military. So from that time till now, it's been over, a decade, or more, a decade and a half of my journey of actually seeking the truth as much as you can, because I did a lot, man. I did a lot to try to be able to see what's going on, to be at peace, because fear comes from the unknown.
yes.
And if you don't know, then you're going to be sitting here worried about things, and if you've done your due diligence to try to fit, because the information is literally put out there for you to find.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Definitely nowadays.
From the horse's mouths, in that sense. So it's not just people that are saying things. It's like literally the people that are doing things are telling you, if you look for their memoirs, their books, whatever, because they know that most of society doesn't read it.
I've heard that before, that the key to unlock real, true enlightenment and happiness is in the books.
Yeah.
And I think that's
because
something
they tell you what they're doing in their stuff, because they have to.
Yeah.
The energy won't allow them to do what they're doing without first telling us what's going on.
Yep.
But they've gotten so slick about it that they distract us so well that they distract us away from where they actually put the information. So it's like it was there.
Yeah.
But we have them worried about all this other stuff. So that is how most people, they just need to take some time to just get away from.
Yeah, got to get out of the matrix. So that's a very good point.
The reason of leaving.
When you're in it, you don't know you're in it because it's by design. It's all around you, so you think that's normal and that's existing, but I guess it is existing, but you're not living. You know what I mean? So the distractions are one thing that keep most of us in a space where we're not growing anymore, because we're too busy embedding more deeply into the matrix. It's and I'm not trying to make nobody feel bad about what they do and how they choose to live their lives, but I'm just going to tell you that if you step away from it, there are distractions. Sports don't matter.
But they'll find out.
All that stuff that we put our energy into, like, for me, huge football fan at some point in my life, right? Especially college football. I would put a lot of energy into whether this team won or lost a game or not. I would go to work and argue with people about these shit that had nothing to do with me. I put a lot of energy into that distraction. Same with basketball, same with any other thing that I enjoy consuming. And all that time and energy that I spent memorizing stats and who got traded and all this stuff, I could have been using those same brain cells and that energy figuring out the keys to what we are meant to be doing on this planet.
But did you know that?
How to thrive.
Did you know that that you're talking about right now is all by design, because it's called, that's our tribal spirit. Mm-hmm. You know, and they literally shifted it from family to sports.
From
community. So,
to sports.
Yep. So for us to spend all that energy, like you said, memorizing stats and all this stuff, they had to put it somewhere, because imagine if all that energy was put towards community building and family.
Right.
You know, so they've been working at that since the days of when you go to Rome and you see the Colosseum there. That is what that reminds everybody of. That's the beginning of all this entertainment, the beginning of taking our tribal spirit away from our family and community and putting it into entertainment, which is really the sports, because that's the only thing that you see, like you said, people getting so hyped up, fighting about their team, but you don't get anything from what happens. Either they win or lose. You know, you don't. You're actually the one fueling it, because you're giving in their money for all this merchandise,
giving your money and all that,
wear all this stuff. So people,
and then you internalize all of it on the subconscious level. Like this, you take that football team or that basketball team or whoever's trauma of the wins and the losses and all that, and it goes into your subconscious.
More serious than your actual real family. You're more worried about that.
Absolutely, and the money and time that we'll never get back is super valuable. So again, not judging. Like, I get it. I was there.
Me too.
I understand, yo.
We always there.
Just know that there's more to it. There's a code. There's a secret language embedded in us that we need to start speaking to each other to get us out of that space. Because one thing we do know, right, is that we don't own none of that, right? Not one of those leagues, as we know them today, are owned by people who they would consider, marginalized, right?
Even if they are, or they have some stake, they haven't given back anything to the community in a way of substance. Unless it has an agenda attached to it, or certain demographics of people that they consider deemed worth going after.
And that's the thing about it all, right? So even though they own all this industry, sports industry, what they give back to the people is charity, right? And the thing is, there would be no need for charity if things were fair. You understand what I'm trying to get at here? So the only reason that charity exists is because people have made the world unfair, and it shouldn't be that way. Charity should be a non-issue if they balance the way wealth was distributed, readdress how society is structured, classism, all of it needs to be re-examined through a new lens versus being so deep into the matrix that you think that you have to work hard every day, all day, for pennies on the dollar just to be middle class at best, where you pay the most taxes and get the most of society's negative downfall.
Well, the States is definitely a trap. When you see, that's the reason why the States does things a little different, because they know what they're doing there. They don't want people to find out, so they make it a little bit harder. And I'll give a few examples. First example, United States is one of the only countries where when you're born, you still have to apply for a passport. Most other countries, you are already granted the passport upon birth. You're given the right to fly anywhere. There is no form to fill out as far as and pay and all that, which there may be payment, don't quote me on that, but I do know that we're the only that you have to apply for the passport. Most of the others give it to you, and I know that from living in other countries and then learning from other people. When I tell them, oh, I had to apply for my passport, I'm looking at you like, apply for it? What the hell? You got to apply to be able to leave the country?
That's crazy.
So that's one thing. Another example is the way that they give credit for things, mortgages and all that, to where they literally trap you in the debt slave cycle, because they give you car credit, house loans, all these things that literally trap you in that place, to where then if you do wake up, you have to figure out all this.
How do I escape from it? Right? 100%. Like, it's like we had 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
Had to sell them. Had to figure out what to do with the property, so we turned into an Airbnb. Like I read this quote the other day. It was talking about car dealerships don't sell cars; they sell debt.
Yeah.
And give you a car as a token. You know what I'm saying? So,
but you were probably in a better financial situation than most. Most people will never be able to pay off their mortgage. Will never be able to do certain little things. Their cars are too, like, they don't get the value back from if they sell it, So for them to wake up and really realize, and they're
so deep in it,
it's depressing for them to try to figure out how to get out of that type of stuff.
You see that now when you talk to your family back home, your friends, like, I would do it, I want to come, but you're.
But then in the same breath, they'll talk about the money that they spent on
football game.
There, and it's like, like they make it seem like you need so much money to leave the States.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
And also, another statistic that I see happening that I'm very disappointed about, that we don't, as just people of color, or I don't really use that word, I say people that look like me, is the fact that we feel like when we're outside the States, but we get sick, that we have to run back to the States for health care.
Oh man, they gotta cut that out.
And it's like, how many people, especially that are watching this podcast right now, have literally taken the time to research the top 10 medical care in the world? And you'll be probably fairly surprised that United States is not in the top 10. And as of like where I looked the last few days, they're not in the top 20. So for us to feel like we leave the States to get the freedom from all that stuff, but then if we get sick, we want to run back to the same place that was oppressing us, to really listen to them taking care of us, and they're really going to do it right, I would risk spending money in some country that I never really lived in, but at least they'll take care of you in the right way.
A lot less money.
And that's what a lot of us need to realize that are outside the States. A lot of us are new outside the States. I didn't, like, even when I was in Germany back 10 years ago, well now like 14 years ago when I first got there in 2008, there wasn't a lot of people that were doing what I was doing, like traveling maybe, but not leaving to live, like literally not going back to the States, like living in another country. So now that I'm seeing us do it now more, I'm seeing that they're now having to go through the stages that I went through, and seeing the things that I know about, learning those things. Number one thing is also like money transfers. A lot of people are stuck on that type of stuff. Also, another thing is cell phone, like the service you should get and all that. A lot of people don't realize, they don't put a lot of time into understanding those things, but it takes time.
It's detachment. We have a lot of attachment.
You got to get away
to that, to our normal lives in the States. That we cutting that cord is the most fearful thing that you can do in all situations. Like it could be a relationship. When you cut the cord, you detach from it. It's gone. That's hard to do. So a lot of us are 1 foot in, 1 foot out because we still have those spirits that just cut the ties and be like, you know what? They can have it. So to your point a minute ago, you were talking about the medical, the top countries. I'll tell you right now, America is a lot further down than one would ever think.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
so we just go top 10 real quick. Top 10. South Korea, Taiwan, Denmark, Austria, Japan, Australia, France, Spain, Belgium, and the UK. That's top 10. Then we goes Netherlands, Finland, Thailand, Czech Republic, Norway. Just do the research, people. And I guarantee you, in most of these places, the cost for similar care pales in comparison to what you pay in America. You can carry insurance for your eyeballs and your teeth to get a procedure that costs much less than the accumulation of the money you pay in insurance once a year. Right? So you get a cleaning. You pay $14 to $25 a month for dental insurance, and the cleaning really only costs about $60.
Yeah.
Should. But you see the play.
They give you one in the year.
In a year, right? I come out here and pay $25 for a cleaning.
Yeah.
Whenever I want to, and go about my day. If I need medicines, I can go to a pharmacy, get most things without a prescription.
You know what we are number one on though in healthcare? Cost.
Oh yeah.
If you look up the number one in the top 10 countries for cost of healthcare, we will be number one.
Yeah.
Every time you're looking at international insurance and they have the option of you to add the states to it, that if you press that button, your dick goes sky high. But if you take it away, you're like, oh, this shit's comfortable. I have international health insurance for pennies on the dollar. But if you add the United States, it literally goes sky high.
Yeah.
So I did the research to try to figure out why, and the reason is because it's the highest cost of healthcare in the world. Yeah. But it's not the best.
Not the best.
As you can see.
And people are actually fighting to keep that same system in place, which is astronomically mind-boggling.
What blows my mind is that you left the States because of all of their problems that you have with them to live elsewhere, but as soon as you get sick, you somehow think that they're going to have your best interest in mind.
Not at all.
And you go running back there to get diagnosed, all that stuff. Treated.
With the Western medicine, which is not what our bodies should be. Here's one thing I've learned in my journey in healing and whatnot is that Mother Earth is built to sustain all life on Mother Earth. There's nothing that can happen to our bodies naturally unless foreign things are put into us via modern science, so to speak. There's nothing that our bodies can naturally possess when it comes to sickness, that there's nothing on this planet that can't heal us from. And this is what ancestral knowledge gives us, which is something that as Black Americans, as African Americans, we don't have that connection. But the Native Americans, they understand that. The natives of this land in Mexico, they understand that. The natives of Thailand, the natives of India, they all know that you don't need Tylenol for headaches and aspirin for blood pressure management. They know that there's things on this planet that already exist naturally that are here to sustain life, and not just human life, all life. We're all connected in a way, and that's something that is a conversation that we'll have on another day when we talk about plant medicines and animal medicines and how we're all connected to Mother Earth to make this planet heal and be better. And I think that the Matrix kind of got people a little confused. They don't really believe that climate change is real. They don't really want to recycle. They still want to consume. more stuff that pollutes the planet because people are caught up in it. But the thing is, we're all we need. We just connect ourselves, walk around barefoot a little bit more, and reconnect with the earth, and you'll kind of understand better that when you were a kid playing, you might have had a cold, but it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to you, because you were free and connected. Somebody told you that you need to start taking medicine, and your body started getting weaker, and then you became dependent on medicine. You didn't know any better, so.
Yeah, we're living that as well. I have a new addition, a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been so far into what's going on for so long, and my other kids are in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So the information that I gathered was in between their birth and this baby.
Yeah.
So at first, the stuff that I was gathering, it didn't really apply to me in a sense, like vaccines, all that type of stuff. I didn't have to worry about fighting for that.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew about it. But once the baby was even announced that it was going to come, that's when all this stuff that I, knew about had to come out.
Mm-hmm.
The vaccine
agenda, you couldn't hold it anymore.
The plant-based medicine, the homeschooling,
Mm-hmm.
The breastfeeding, like all this stuff you really have to advocate for. The home,
You have to be brave, brother.
But the thing is, I feel like for me, it's been so long that I've been able to kind of, when you say crack the code
Mm-hmm.
of manifesting, even if you don't know where it's going, but because I've been outside the States so long, learning about all these things that I'm now able to do kind of a lot easier than
Mm-hmm.
most, because they need the practice to do it. But this definitely needs to be talked about how you can literally manifest your own destiny.
Yeah.
In a sense of, and it gets easier and easier when you start with small things, and you start to understand, how to do it, which is only in a sense a 3-step process, I think, how I see it, because it's like a triangle,
Mm-hmm.
and they know this, and they replace or they get rid of one that people don't realize, So
What is it?
the first one is you have to actively say it out your mouth that what you want, in the sense of where you're trying to go, at least in a broad sense,
Mm-hmm.
because you may not know where you're going,
Yep.
but you want to get out of what you're in.
Yep.
So then the next step is to actually put action behind it, so you actually have to do something different to get something different
Mm-hmm.
of what you're trying to do. And then the third one, which is the most important one, which most people don't do, is you have to be ready to react on it. And that's where most people fall to the wayside.
Tell me more about the react.
So let's say you want out of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
You actively say it out your mouth. Then you put the action behind getting out that situation. So the third piece, which most people don't do, is actually take that step to do what they've planned. They always backtrack.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
So that is that missing piece to
Complete that triangle.
complete the triangle.
Gotcha.
So that's why most people don't get where they're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
It was presented to you because that's how the universe does it, but you don't receive it and take it.
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they're scared, like,
Life
I
shit.
need out this job.
Yeah.
And then they literally put out all these applications all over the United States. Then this job hits them that's 200 miles away. That's what they want.
But it's 200 miles away, and now they out of it. Yeah.
That's the example
That's
right
it.
there.
That's it.
People are holding on to
Comfort.
whatever, the comfort,
Hold on to comfort.
and they don't want to receive what was given to them that they asked for.
They asked for it. They
And
put it
that
out
is-
there. Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yep. Firm believer in that. When you put something out in the universe, the laws of attraction, the laws of manifestation, the universe starts conspiring to make this happen for you. But you have to be open to the omens that present themselves along the way. So the idea is to start saying yes more. Fear, a lot of times, make you say no. Like, why can't you leave America? Why can't you move from, small town America to the city? Why can't you move from the city to small town America? All these things are just conditioned barriers to keep you stagnant. And stagnation means death, right? So if you feel like you're disconnected from your destiny, disconnected from feeling connected to the world, to other people, that means you need to start moving, making changes. Follow the omens. When things happen, you keep seeing a commercial on TV, you keep hearing a certain word, pay attention to it. 'Cause that's the universe telling you to get off your ass and start making changes to fulfill your purpose. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. Like when you get that message, follow it full circle, and you'll start feeling more fulfilled and in alignment with your destiny.
It doesn't stop there. It's a cycle. So once you connect that, then you do it again.
You do it again.
Then you do it again. But then it becomes easier and easier once you start doing it.
Right.
To where it's this your life, and it just starts taking you in crazy places. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, that Playa chose me.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. Yeah, how'd you end up in Playa?
So-
we won't go too long. We are at an hour almost. We can go. It's all good.
So the
How'd it happen?
baby was announced, and at that time I had just left Germany to go to Oakland to work. I got recruited into a company that had moved from Colorado to open up another manufacturing site of cannabis in Oakland. So they recruited me, and I went there to help them with their whole logistics operation. I was going to do big things there, but then a baby was announced with an old friend that I had known from the military days. Crazy story how we even
connected.
went to Iraq together. It was crazy. But so she, I told her that there's no way that we can raise a baby in Oakland. Just like the condition of people that look like me
Nice.
is just crazy. Like there's no way I'm bringing a baby up for her to think that that's normal. So we started looking at U.S. territories to move to because my knowledge of being outside the States, I had to do, which it was cool at the time, a lot of visa runs, not to the States, but to other countries. That's why it was so cool. You can get to Africa and all these other northern African countries to reset your visa and still chill there. That's why I've been to like Morocco a lot of times. And
Just popping in.
yeah,
kicking in.
it's cool,
Yeah.
But so we're looking at U.S. territories, and they start like Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, all these type of places. But the cost of living is just too high. They're islands, everything's imported.
Yeah, they're using the U.S. dollar as a
Yeah, they use exactly. So the compensation, because me and her both get compensation. She was in Iraq too. I was as well.
Right.
Like that's a rare combination that there's two people that are literally both getting compensation from the military.
Right.
Right? It's crazy, but that comes with a lot of issues that can be discussed later too.
Yeah, we can do this.
But,
We can do this many times we need to get to all of that.
So we decided to take a break from looking at where to move to and take a vacation somewhere. So I looked up online like an app of where a nice place to go that's outside the States but close.
Yeah.
So I found Puerto Vallarta. So we went there for like a few weeks for a vacation, and then while we were there, people that we were telling them while we were there, they're like, "Oh, you're there on a baby moon. You're here on a baby moon." We're like, "Baby moon?" They're like, "Yeah, the vacation before the baby's born."
Yeah, I think I might have heard that term before. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're on a baby moon. Like we didn't know that shit. So while we're there, though, we started to realize, like, damn, why don't we move to Mexico? So when we left there to go back to Oakland, and we were trying to finalize where we were going to move to, we found 5 cities that had a big expat community, and this was way before all this that we see now. Like this was not here, and Playa wasn't even on the list. The one we chose was Merida, so we moved to Merida first. When we got to Merida, it was just a little bit more traditional, and you really have to speak Spanish to really get around.
It's
and
not
really,
as touristy. Yeah.
So we decided to look on Google Maps to go somewhere for like a weekend vacation. We ended up I ended up going to Cancun first, and then I was like, I don't want to go to Cancun, but let's go down the beach to see what's there. And I seen Playa. So then I zoom in, and it starts getting bigger and bigger.
It's not that bad.
I'm like, Playa looks nice. So we came here on a weekend, and literally once we left, we were like, yo, before we left, we were like, yo, let's go back to Merida, pack up our shit, and come back here. So we got here in like December 2019.
Okay.
So this is before COVID. So we were here chilling. Everything was cool until March, and then that's when, like, March 17th was when
started locking shit down.
April 17th was when they shut down completely.
Yeah.
You know, and but then it only lasts till June 1st.
Okay.
And since then it's been how it is here, and that's why I was like, there's no reason to go anywhere else, because why leave this type of environment where you don't have to sit here and have fear walking around with all this fear going on. You can live your life still and go trade this in to go somewhere else because you still want to travel when you have all these stipulations. So I'm gonna let it settle down first, then figure out where to go, because we had a plan all the way up until like 2028 of where we were going to travel. We were going to go to South America, 4 countries there, because this is all the plan for the baby, like
world school,
world schooling, plus raise her in certain times in certain places, you know. So our deal, we were going to be in Africa for 5 years. We're going to pick 5 countries in Africa to spend 1 year, because we wanted her to be around during those ages. Everybody that looks like her is doing everything, not like if you go to the States and all of us are doing service jobs, but all the people that don't look like you are doing the real jobs. Yeah. And it's like you start to associate that, like raising a kid that looks like us in those stages are very crucial. So you got to go somewhere where everybody, you go in the bank, they're the owner of the bank. You go on the airplane, the pilots, you go. So that is the structure that we are trying to put together. That's why building this community in Playa with people that look like us, we're able to have our daughter around all the families that have the small kids, and that she's still able to have a little piece of that until we're able to figure out all this.
I think we're in that same boat. We're in that same boat. We were actually thinking about getting involved into a permaculture community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at in my mindset. Like none of this, any of this shit. You know what I mean?
That's why we live in places like this, because we don't need none of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm here. This is the first stop, but I could do with more organic living. You know what I mean? Less footprint. A smaller footprint on the planet is something that I strive.
I feel like we're all going to be forced at some point in time to choose to either be a part of their system and all these things that come along with it,
Yeah.
or you're going to have to go and live off the grid.
Off the grid. Yeah.
That time is going to come, you know, and
Sooner than we think.
sooner than we think, you know, and that is the issue that a lot of people in the States it's gonna hit them hard because they're so used to
I agree.
everything being given to them.
Yeah.
There's not so many people in the States that know how to do anything as far
That's
as
it.
carpentry,
They can't-
especially the people that look like
They're
us.
so used to
Electric,
yes.
plumbing for water,
Yeah.
you know, or even food,
Yeah.
how to hunt and kill and clean.
Right. All of it. We're so dependent
Yeah.
on society or the system as a whole. If you're hungry, you're going to the grocery store. If you know what I mean, you're probably not picking out fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah,
If you're sick, you call a doctor, or you depending on some major pharmaceutical company
Exactly.
to take your
Yep.
money so you can treat yourself.
so imagine if that whole system
just-
is cut off.
Then what? Right? Catastrophe.
They are going to be lined up wherever they say that they will take care of you
Mhm.
at. And that could very well be the last place you go to.
It could very well be the last place you go to, and that's the message. That's the message. If you're very dependent on the system to that degree, then you're playing with fire. You're playing with your life, honestly. So that's a beautiful way to end this. I think we could pick up.
Hey,
I
you know,
appreciate you,
enjoy this.
Ah, man, I enjoyed it as well. Yeah, so part 2 coming soon. We're gonna crack the code and we're gonna get into some deep stuff for enlightenment and how to save ourselves from ourselves. And I think that's the best way to end this podcast. Peace and love. Everybody stay solid. Thank you, Mike, the most interesting
Bless.
man in the playa. I shit you not. You got to come out here and go to one of his parties. They're going to be an absolute experience. Cannabis friendly, psilocybin, plant-based energy happening, and just healing and building community outside of the matrix. So, if you don't know what Playa del Carmen is, when you're done watching this, find a video on YouTube or just Google Playa del Carmen, and you get a vibe of what's really kind of happening out here. Maybe not the African American vibe, but you get an understanding that people are living outside of that system and happy. So, I love you guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. Me and Mike will probably get back together and talk some more shit about whatever, and let you guys enjoy the experience. So, again, appreciate you. Peace and love.
All right, everybody.